Hey friends, welcome back to the channel. 85 million. That is the number of jobs that will be displaced by 2025 due to the shifting of labor between humans and machines. 1/3. That is the proportion of jobs that are at high risk of automation in the next decade. Across several industries, today's most in-demand jobs did not exist 10 to 15 years ago. Fields like big data, data science, machine learning and AI were in fact niche markets no more than 10-15 years ago. But today, specialized jobs in those areas rank first, second and third in the top 20 job roles in increasing demand. And the pace of change in the workforce landscape is set to accelerate due to the disruptive impacts of digitalization. Okay, but what is automation and how does it differ from digitalization? How about the difference between robots and AI? Is your job a risk? And if yes, where should you be looking to find a new one? Well, let's find out. My feeling is that there is a general confusion about the difference between automation and digitalization, and frankly this is no surprise since media don't do a great job when it comes to using these terms in the correct sense. Think of automation as the process by which we take a task usually carried out by humans and mechanize it. Automation is about minimizing human inputs. This is nothing new. We've been automizing human labor in factories since the 16th century. Since then, more and more sophisticated machines were invented and introduced with the goal of increasing productivity, quality, security, efficiency, and so on. Factories and workspaces have been highly automated for decades now, so much so that nobody would be surprised to walk into a factory and see dozens of robotic arms frenetically shuffling stuff around, soldering parts and assembling components on winding conveyor belts. Digitalization, on the other hand, is about taking automation to a whole new level. Digitalization is not about introducing technology into an existing process and improve what is already done. Its goal is to use digital technology to enable novel scenarios and use cases. Let's take the example of a pharmaceutical production plant and say that the production process itself is pretty much already automated. But now we introduce sensors and cameras that monitor and collect data from the production process. By processing and analyzing this data, it is possible to identify and eventually predict the conditions under which these machines can become faulty so that they can be substituted in advance before they can actually cause disruption and downtime. This would not only grant higher efficiency, but it would grant higher safety standards for the people involved in the production process. What I just described is referred to as predictive maintenance. Let's take another example. A medium-sized hospital. Every morning, doctors come in and instead of treating their patients, they are required to spend several hours of their time to go through dozens of medical records to identify which patients could possibly be discharged that day. What if medical records were digitalized and processed by an AI-enabled system that, as the doctor arrives in the morning, presents her with a list of patients eligible for discharge so that she can review it in a matter of minutes? This could save precious time that the doctor could use for patients that need additional care. These are just simple examples of the use cases enabled by digitalization and artificial intelligence. Okay, let's now get to the interesting parts. Let's talk about robots. Yes.
I'm a cybernetic organism.
Except no, that's not how a robot looks like. At least not necessarily. There are plenty of robots around us, but none of them really looks like a human. We talked about robots being used in production plants and we saw how digitalization is making use of AI to enable new use cases and applications. But are AI and robots the same thing? No. Robots are mechanical apparatuses used to replace humans in performing tasks which we are not willing or not capable of doing. By no means robots are required to physically resemble a living being, let alone a human. Remotely operated vehicles such as drones, submarines, and missiles can be technically considered robots. Mechanical arms used in production plants and construction sites are also robots. So there is nothing intrinsically intelligent or human in a robot. At the same time, AI does not require a human-like body to do its job. Siri does not have anything that can be called a body, just a synthetic voice. So robots, AI, not the same thing. We will see that AI is a much bigger deal. In this regard, if we are to trust what Stephen Hawking said, AI will be either the best or worst for humanity. But why is that? Let's make a quick step back. AI is actually old. First attempts at AI date as far back as the mid-50s. The foundations of the field were laid during an 8-week summer workshop held at Dartmouth College in 1956 that went to become legendary. The best professors and scientists of the time joined the meeting. Among these, there were absolute rock stars such as Ray Solomonoff, Martin Minsky, John McCarthy, Claude Shannon, and John Nash. The proposal state of the workshop is quite ambitious. The objective was to proceed on the basis of the conjecture that every aspect of learning or any other feature of intelligence can in principle be so precisely described that a machine can be made to simulate it. A profound sense of optimism radiates from the statement, and here I quote again. We think that a significant advance can be made in one or more of these problems if a carefully selected group of scientists work on it together for a summer. So basically these guys are like, okay, I know this sounds complicated, but we got this. Just give us a few weeks. Except it turns out to be quite different. During the 60s, 70s, and 80s, in fact, AI went through a series of hype cycles with significant achievements as well as major setbacks until the early 90s when AI hit its all-time low. By then, results of AI were applied across several fields, but the AI branding became mostly niche. So why this revival? Why do we hear talking about AI everywhere? Well, there are several reasons, but mostly it is because of a series of achievements in the area of machine learning, especially in the field of deep neural networks. Neural networks are computational systems loosely inspired by biological neural networks in animal brains. These networks were studied and theorized in the 50s, only soon to be abandoned thereafter. Neural networks are interesting because they can be taught to perform very complex tasks through a process called training. Say I'd like to train a neural network to recognize my face. What I have to do is submit the network a set of photos of faces, including mine. Then I would tell the network which photos contain my face. This way, the network will learn to recognize it and will be able to identify it when presented. The interesting concept here is that I am not required to explicitly know how to solve the problem of recognizing a face. I simply need to show the network samples and it will self-learn how to perform the recognition task. Training a neural network requires vast amounts of data and high availability of computational power. That is the reason why neural networks were abandoned during the 50s only to become wildly popular today. In the age of the internet and the cloud, we have abundance of data and computational resources. Okay, so we have our Siris, Alexas, and some nice neural networks that recognize our faces as we try and unlock our phones. So far, no sign of scary Terminator-like humanoid robots ready to initiate doomsday, right? Yes, the kind of AI we have talked about so far are what the experts call artificial narrow intelligence, aka machines that are very good at one specific task, but just that. Try and use Siri to drive your car and see what happens. So we're all safe, yeah. AI is stupid and we should not be worrying. Except DeepMind. DeepMind is a Google-owned British company that made headlines in 2016 when its deep neural network-based program AlphaGo beat the human world champion at the Chinese board game of Go. As such event unfolded, the scientific community was caught in between a mixture of awe and concern. Experts thought such a milestone to be at least a decade away. AlphaGo showed the world that indeed machines were capable of outsmarting a human being at one of the hardest games in the world. This event was particularly relevant because unlike other games in which machines can apply a brute force strategy and use their computational power to evaluate the best choice among hundreds of millions of moves in a matter of seconds, in the case of Go, the number of moves is so high that this approach is completely unfeasible. The only way of beating the game is by mimicking human-like intuition. The scary part is that according to its creator, DeepMind's AlphaGo was not programmed for a specific task, but it can learn and generalize from experience. This is the first concrete attempt at what experts call artificial general intelligence, i.e., a computer that is as smart as a human at any intellectual task. So now, should we be worried or excited about AI? There are a number of circumstances that should not make us particularly happy with the situation. According to the results of a 2017 OECD survey on adults' literacy and numeracy skills, only 13% performed better than current level AI. AI exceeds human performance in a growing number of domains. In fact, humans have been substituted by AI-enabled robots and algorithms in a wide variety of tasks. And AI capabilities continue to grow at exponential rates. AI is being used to serve evil goals such as mass surveillance in China or self-guided bombing drones in war zones. But on the other hand, as much as digitalization and AI are displacing jobs, they are also creating the conditions for the creation of new ones. According to the World Economic Forum, by 2025, 97 million jobs will emerge thanks to the shifting of labor from humans to machines. The most requested skills today, such as data science and machine learning experts as well as big data specialists, only emerged because of the growth of AI and digitalization. AI and automation is being applied successfully to help out workers free up the time to do more productive, less stressing, less risky activities. AI has allowed to provide better products and services to consumers, has opened the possibility to improve medical diagnosis, has helped pharmaceutical companies in synthesizing new molecules for drugs. As in the case of any technology, it is a matter of how we apply and govern it. We should enable a future in which machines will help humans living happier, healthier, and safer lives. A future where the humans will leave the machines' routine tasks so that they can dedicate themselves to more creative and more emotionally rewarding duties. In our constantly accelerating environment, the only thing that is certain is change. What was relevant 5 years ago might be completely obsolete tomorrow. This applies to what we learned at school, to our degree, to our skills, and to our competencies. For this reason, the single most powerful weapon that we have against constant change is our ability to learn. We should train ourselves at being eager and quick learners. Change will happen. Industries will be disrupted. Jobs will be displaced. But if we keep our capability of learning alive, then we will always be able to adapt. So whatever happens, stay curious. Never stop asking questions. Never stop learning. Okay guys, it is all for now. I am Francesco Fusco and this is Decode, the only place in the world where we take reality and decode it for you. So you don't have to do it on your own. If you found this useful, stick around and subscribe for more content. Are you excited or scared? Let me know in the comments below. As always, thanks for watching. See you guys in the next one. Cheers.